Do I need to just, oh, I actually have to rotate the camera.
Yes. This is high production today, guys.
We were all
Motion picture.
Upside down there?
Oh, man.
Oh, it all, yeah.
But it's comfortable.
Top up.
Very comfortable. And that's what's important. Who cares if the threads are coming out?
Yeah, we don't have the recorder.
It's fine.
Put my phone on silent and airplane mode and record from there.
I agree with that. Good morning.
Is the recorder
Okay.
missing or is it?
No. It has been given to us.
You want me to go?
No.
What else?
No. We have other recorders. Okay.
Anybody else need my Marco?
Want me to go?
Marcos? You got.
It's only to watch all the proceedings. I want you to see all the proceedings. Too much action going on.
The only thing I found is if I leave it on the table, it doesn't always send the greatest. But
Let's see how it sounds.
Who brought that stuff here?
Somebody trying to get rid of their shalom models.
Who brought that here?
me.
Was it
Identify
open?
yourself. What's that?
Was it open before?
But I didn't send them my cameras yet.
They can't bring it in.
Okay, we put it back in the bed.
What's no good?
Previous girl.
What,
Girl. I got rules I gotta run this place by. Okay, yeah? What happens outside this year, I don't care about. But what happens in this year, I gotta be by.
At least this year's kosher, right?
Okay.
Although
We'll
we're
have
not
to
going
keep
into
that
some
standard.
liberal leaning left wing kind of a thing today.
Oh, everyone's excited.
Everybody, don't get too, it's not like voting for Biden.
Okay, good morning.
No, that's what it's.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming. People coming from far and wide. Welcome. Aleichem Shalom. All the way from Eretz Yisrael.
brother's from LA.
Oh wow, the West Coast.
I'm gonna
Shalom Aleichem.
move over a second.
So, especially if you're coming from LA, multiple people came over to me and they were nervous about the topic. If the share is entitled "Leaning to the Left," does that have anything to do with your political views?
You're talking about me? Because you're from California?
Yeah.
Who would ever think that?
Yes. So the good news is you can stay conservative over Pesach and still lean to the left. It's not a contradiction. But this morning's share, we would like to talk about the mitzvah Heseiba, the mitzvah of leaning on Pesach.
Sure.
Please excuse me, my voice is under the influence of the weather. So that's also one of the reasons I thought of nice ideas. But really, when it comes to Pesach, there's so many different halachos, so many laws that we have to learn, that sometimes there are many details that get lost somewhere in transition. And the concept of Heseiba, of leaning, definitely could be one of those things that's lost in transition for many reasons. First of all, and we're going to see this idea, I'm just pointing you this aspect, we're going to be playing a video soon. So it's okay for now. But the first thing I'll bring up, we're going to get to this shita a little bit later, but there's a shita of the Ravia, major halachic shita here in these halachos, that says that nowadays we don't even do Heseiba, because the whole concept of leaning, that was by the Romans, that was in ancient times.
So was dipping the green dress.
Hold on. That's something which is a little bit not something we do today. And there are even our shittas that say we shouldn't do it. That is an opinion. Practically, we don't really paskin like that, especially when it comes to men. So no one should think they're exempt from leaning in a normal situation just because of this idea. But that already means that the concept of leaning should be, to a certain degree, foreign to us. Hard to understand. That's A. B, when it comes to leaning, I would bet, now I haven't yet done a study, but if you go around, if you're a guest by different people's Seder, different people's Pesach Seder, I would bet the degree of how you see people lean varies very much. And there's all types of contortions of people taking their angle on how to lean. And not just regular people, lay people, I would say even Rabbanim. I would assume there's different ways people do it. And what could be potentially questionable, I saw, for example, some posts can bring down, if you're just leaning on mid-air, one of the halachas that we'll see that they talk about is leaning. Now, we all are sitting either on a chair with hands on it today, or a nice couch over there. What happens, which is true in many houses, not everyone has armchairs. What would one do if they're sitting in a chair without arms? It's easier to a certain degree if you have arms in your chair when you're leaning. If you don't have arms in your chair, how exactly are you leaning? To lean on the person next to you. Lean on me. Okay.
Or a chair next to you. There's space.
Yeah, but like assuming there's no arm, there's no chair to lean. So then you have to start being innovative. And that's where these things could get even more complicated. What exactly does one have to do for leaning?
It's even harder with more and more people in the house. So.
Yes.
Is this assuming that when you're leaning, you have to be leaning on something solid?
I'm not sure that the word...
Leaning on air doesn't count.
Right, leaning on air, you're not leaning... Okay, let's forget the molecular structure of air. But yeah, you're not leaning on anything solid.
There's leaning. I'm leaning. I'm not leaning on anything.
Right. So I did see some poskim say if you just do that without the assistance of a table or maybe a pillow, that might even be a problem.
How does that differ from Tatan?
It's a totally different thing. Yeah. What's brought up was we do some type of I'm not even sure how to describe it. I wouldn't use the word lean.
Nefila.
Yeah.
Falling on
There's
our-
in Tefillah and Tachna we do what we call Nefias Apayim. Nefilas Apayim. Which I remember Rabbi Sharfman said once explaining.
On your face.
It's something in between sitting and standing. Yeah. So that's not leaning, even though technically you put your hand on your left hand, at least you're davening if you're righty, but or right hand if you're tall on it, it gets complicated. Now, for illustrative purposes, I decided today to go a little more modern tech, and I'd like to show a video. Now, to put in perspective, this video will first show us what, at least one opinion is, what Heseiba is. This video is a video taken of Rav Belsky, who was Rosh Yeshiva in Torvadas, an amazing person. I don't know that we really gave a share on him yet, but he might be one of those people next on a share. Rav Belsky, I believe he got a perfect score on his SATs, was offered full scholarships in New York City as a kid. He was like the only one who ever pushed it off. Like they gave him another year. They wanted him very badly. He ended up staying in yeshiva. He used to walk around with his letter of acceptance, from the Board of Regents, huh?
From Harvard.
Yeah, he was quite a smart fellow. He later became one of the heads of OU Kashrus.
He was a senior halachic.
Right. And really, so much of Baruch Hashem, what we have today in the kashrus world is thanks to him. And the modern kashrus world, for sure, in America. So why don't we go to the videotape, and we'll see a video of him trying to describe it. Now, I see there's a little bit of a glare. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do much with that. Maybe we'll shut the lights in the back. I don't know if that could do much for our theater, but we'll try. Okay.
Somebody wants to know how much must one lean over for proper Heseiba? 10 degrees, 45 degrees or 90 degrees? There's no, it's anonymous.
When you're making a Seder, it's maybe it's not included here, it's now after the shear. I don't know how you spell the word shear. But the mindset, it's I'll tell you, I really, many years ago, I feel like everyone else made a Seder, and it was a matter of some kind of contortionist body twisting, like just do that with a full cup of wine. Someplace, and I looked up at the upper part of the wall, and I noticed, very interesting, hotel, I think it was a good convention, something like that, many years ago. And I noticed a tapestry that had pictures of Roman, Greek feasts. Everyone was sitting on the mitos that they had the time Chazal, and everyone was making Heseiba. And I saw precisely what the Heseiba meant, and it's very comfortable, very regal, very leisurely. The cup is perfectly balanced. What? 20 degrees. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. Okay. But I always make a set. Since then, quite a few years, mostly 30s plus 40 years. Okay. Good with the Atlantic system. Maybe it was long before. This is the way to do it, Rabbi said. And that's the Heseiba that was done in the ancient times. You have a mito. By the way, you know what a mito is? They all sat on mitos, right? Heseibu lecho is, right? So then lechet vorach l'kulon yoshvu lecho. So I could bend the microphone over while I'm making a signal. But Lamaisa, the bed looked like a regular bed, short bed rather, and it had an angular head, so that you could lift up your head. And it's exactly like it was done. You do it. It's very comfortable, and like Fatal described how they talked with the people on their right side and behind you. You couldn't talk with them so easily. People learned a lot about it, but this is the essay. You eat everything this way. So just a little support for your arm or your body. So you don't have to go through short portions that people try to accomplish. And they try to make a say. The truth is that you can't blame anyone, because 99% of the people never saw the illustration of the Seder that I saw way back when.
Now we saw it.
What?
Now we all saw it.
Okay.
As I mentioned in the.
Okay, this is the comedy show.
You don't want to hear.
But Harvey, can you get the lights? So let me just say over what Rabbi Belsky did over there. Rabbi Belsky basically told a story that for years he himself didn't know what Heseiba is, what exact angle. He says years ago he was at an Aguda convention. It was held in the hotel, And he saw on the tapestries on the walls and the ceiling, there was depictions of Romans and Greeks leaning back and eating. And the angles of what he saw, how they were doing it, he said it felt very comfortable, very regal, and relatively was easy to do. So if you're able to catch his illustration of how to do it, his demonstration, just leaning back, drinking, you're not going like that, you're not, just a tilt, leaning back, eating and drinking. Very, very nice, I think, funny description of what Heseiba is.
Is it just symbolic?
Huh? Yes.
Very
So
symbolic
let me.
gesture.
Yes. So let's begin. I'm going to go through some of the halachas inside, and hopefully we'll get a better flavor for what exactly is going on during the Seder night. That we're very into this leaning. Now the siman, the halachas of Heseiba get their own siman Shulchan Aruch, siman Tov Ayin Beis. But before the Machaber of the Shulchan Aruch gets to the halachas of Heseiba, first he talks about your table. I left it off, it's halacha aleph, but it says really, and you see these in pictures a lot. Obviously, don't tell your wives, this is only something you could do if, your house is not running wild. But ideally, the Pesach Seder table should be set while it's still daytime. There's, ready in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you should have your table set for the Suda, so therefore you should come home right away, you go straight into it. It's a busy night. That's the first halacha. Seemingly nothing to do with Heseiba.
That's for the kids.
For the table to be set at 1 o'clock?
Because you should start your Seder immediately.
Yeah, true, that's part of it.
This year Pesach starts mostly Shabbos.
No, yeah.
And you said that they wanted Shabbos for a
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. I don't know the answer. That's a great question, right? What was asked was this year, since it starts Motzi Shabbos, could one set one's table on Shabbos afternoon? Right?
Not the next year, possibly.
Oh, right. This year it's Sunday night.
You can't though.
Sunday night.
So
Whenever.
but that's a very good question for a year.
Now you're all set.
We solved your problem.
On the year,
But-
whatever
Yeah,
year.
Answer that question.
So does it ever fall that way?
It
that
can't be
comes
Sunday.
Motzi Shabbos?
Yes.
Absolutely.
A lot.
I mean, we do say there's some amount of Pesach that
Definitely
kind of
question.
starts by
So I have more than a
Chatzos.
year to answer it.
There is some amount of the Yontif of Pesach that starts by Chatzos.
Yeah,
day
I
before.
agree.
So
Extension
maybe
of question is every year if you keep, if you put the Aretz and you're keeping the second day Yom Tov, do you have to do that for the second day?
you can't.
Even though you can't prepare on the first day for the second day, though.
That's what's called
Good
preparing though.
Right. Very good. But then I put halacha beis on the chart, on the sheets. Yisader shulchan yafel b'kelim noim kefi kocho. Really, Pesach should have nice kelim as much as you could afford. Nowadays,
More than Shabbos.
people have gotten very into using what they call fancy plastic ware, which is also a nice way to do it. Look, if a person has a set of china that's kosher for Pesach, that's even best. But there is an idea of setting your table nicely. And then he writes, "V'yechavin makom moshavo." You should set up the place where you're going to sit. Sheyalshu be'heseiba derech cheres. That you should sit with heseiba, with leaning, derech cheres, a means in which you could show freedom. So the Shulchan Aruch is teaching us this idea of heseiba is a means of showing freedom. The night of the Seder is a night when we celebrate our freedom from Egypt, our exodus. And a way to do that is by this regal form of leaning. That's also why it's important that we get it right, how to do it. Because if you're eating in a very weird, contortionist way, that's anything but regal. The concept of Heseiba is another form of showing cheres, of freedom. Now, there are many halachas regarding Heseiba. I'll try to go through them, and I'm sure we'll have questions of how to do it in our own particular cases. But the first basic step is we saw a demonstration of what Heseiba is. Simply in that demonstration, you do need either a chair or a table to lean on. A pillow will help a person with his leaning, but really you do need some surface to hold yourself on. And
Rebelski turned himself in the chair and put his arm on the same table that he was sitting at.
right, which means that could be done, even if you have a non-armchair. But, the Mechaber does say this is the halacha you should prepare an Erev Pesach, is what you really would need sometimes by a situation like that is everyone's seat to be prepared like that, right? Everyone knows the issue sometimes if you have a tight table and you're a righty and the person next to you is a lefty.
Well, in this case,
right? That leads to problems. Similarly over here, if you want to do your Heseiba this way, you have to just make sure that the people next to you are comfortable and you're not slamming into them. Like most of Judaism, it's very important to know that yes, we have to do our mitzvahs, but it shouldn't come at the expense of stepping on other people's toes. And literally here, you can definitely do that with your landing points for Heseiba.
This one doesn't, the halacha is clearly lean to the left. It's not if you're a lefty.
Correct.
To the left.
Correct.
So in this case,
now,
everyone's going to
but if you're leaning left by doing this and someone else is leaning left by doing this, they can end up on you, or your chair could end up on the next person.
In the same direction. So you have half a chance of doing it right.
So the halacha is, as was just brought up, that's the next halacha. Keshu Mesiv, when a person does Heseiba, lo yad al gabav, don't do it on your back. Lo panav, you don't do it face forward. Lo al yamino, you don't do it on your right side. Ella al smola, you only do it on your left side. And Ramal writes, there's no difference between a lefty or a righty. Everyone must lean to the left. Now, what's the reason for this? So first of all,
Rabbi, do women lean?
I'm going to get to that question. Hold on. So it sounds like the reason why we lean to the left is two reasons. First of all, as we said, the whole purpose of Heseiba is to show this freedom. I guess you have to go to our Roman illustrations, is they only lean to the left. That's what it seems.
They lean to the left because they felt
right.
like
Second reason,
physiological benefit.
Right. That's the second reason also. The second reason is also there's a fear of a person choking if a person will lean to his right. So that's why we always lean to our left. And that's why the halacha is so, whether you're a righty or a lefty. So that really means if you're a lefty, this could get a little tricky. It means you have to practice holding your cup in your right hand and drinking. It also means, we'll get to soon, but eating your matzah, holding in your right hand and eating that matzah. Okay, I guess, especially if you're using your hand to support yourself when you're leaning, you'll need that other hand to hold the cup, to hold your food. Now, the good news is, most poskim say you do not need to lean during the entirety of the Seder, during the meal. So practically speaking, I would not recommend for people to lean during the meal, especially during the soup. Not a good idea.
I'm going to end up pouring it down your shirt.
Really practice.
The Ramah does bring a shita that to lean during the Suda. There is such a shita, right? So it might be the Rambam. But most modern day poskim say that's not something that we do, and that for sure would be a problem if you're a lefty trying to maneuver leaning to the left. Let's just work on holding a cup and chewing on some matzah. Anything beyond that is going to get way too complicated.
And the first reason, it just seems interesting, we do something because not just any goyim, but goyim who oppressed us, they destroyed the base of Mikdash, we're doing something based on because they did it. Meaning we're leaning
Yeah, no. So
this
the question,
show of Kairos because that's what they did.
the question is being asked is like it's a little funny that why were you just copying the Goyim? Usually we do our own thing, but here, I think the assumption is a little different. Is not everything is bad in the Goyim do. This is actually a good thing.
It's controversial.
This is a legitimate form of demonstration of a person being luxurious, regal, a man of power. And on the night of the Seder, we want to do that. We want to feel that liberation, that freedom, that ecstasy. And this is why we don't lean all year round. But on the night of the Pesach, that's something we do. Yes?
Just because we look back and see good reference from the Romans doesn't mean it wasn't done before.
Okay, yeah, could be.
Your
Could be.
Greeks probably did it too.
Now, I saw a very interesting shiloh, which unfortunately could come up. Let's say a person, especially you had a bit too active Purim, and you bruise, you break your right hand, chas v'shalom. What do you do now in Pesach? If I lean to my left is my one good hand. You don't have a right hand. It's in a sling. What do you do in that situation?
At least his nephews are for it.
So, right, I can't hold anything in my right hand, so should I lean to my left? To my right?
Maybe you're potter.
So the Chavetz Chaim himself brings up this question in the Be'er Halacha. And the Chavetz Chaim is a little bit unsure what to do. Should one person lean to his right or not? Am I leaning to my right too much? So, what should one do? So, the Chavetz Chaim seems to end off, like was said, which is a very interesting idea, is look, where you can't do it, you're off the hook. So, if a person does have an injury to one's right hand, Chas v'shalom, he's paralyzed in his right side, that person, even though he has a left hand, which is useful, but he would not lean to his right side. He would just sit there at the Seder, eat, without leaning. Now,
Similarly, what if he's injured on the left?
Some issue with your left side too.
right. If you can't move your body in that way, seemingly, yes, that should carry the same type of halacha.
You can use a sippy cup.
Interesting. Yeah.
Just if a person's struggling, I think it would be counterproductive to the idea of the freedom.
Yes. But that doesn't mean
Struggling plus to have a real disability, not I just don't like it,
Now, we're going to see in a moment, this halacha is actually very much of a chiddush. To say that a person's pater from doing Heseiba is quite interesting. Because, let's fast forward for a moment. What would be if a person does the Seder, but he forgot to lean? I drank my cup of wine, but I forgot to lean. So I didn't put all these. Yes. So the basic halacha is.
You'll have to go back and drink again.
I'll read to you the halacha. I didn't put this on your sheets.
No, you have to West Coast of wine.
Wine's an exception. You can't. If you missed up, if you weren't Yossi Rafikomen, how do you go back if you're not allowed to?
So good. So let's go through the halacha.
We'll take care of that.
Shulchan Aruch writes in Siv Zion, again, I didn't put this far in the sheet, that anyone who needs to eat something, that whatever needs to be eaten with Heseiba, im ochel o shusa below Heseiba, if you ate your matzah or drank your wine without Heseiba, lo yatsa, v'tzarech lachzer lecho v'lishtos b'Heseiba. You need to redo. Right? This is a good question. Good quiz. How's a person drinking 6 cups of wine on Pesach? in one night. If you forgot to do a Heseiba on the first two.
Just
Just
throw
have
it
to
in
do the
during
crossover.
during the Shulchan
Correct.
Aruch
Doesn't have
anyway.
to do the whole Haggadah.
Well, hold on.
Hold on.
It gets complicated. Now, let's just go through the first thing before I get to the specific points. The basic idea, Mechaber writes, if you miss it, you got to do it over. However, the Ramah chimes in. Nowadays, we don't really lean. The Romans are dead. The Greeks are buried. So no one leans.
Latin is
So the Ramah does write that, hey, we can rely on this opinion. We don't really need to do a Heseiba nowadays. Okay? So if you stopped right here, you have a nice machlokas between Ashkenazim and the Sephardim. A Sephardi who misses for sure has to go back. An Ashkenazi, the Ramah is writing that perhaps one doesn't have to go back. However, he writes, V'nir li im shasa, im lo shasa kol shlisha revi, b'heseiba, im lachsol nishos b'heseiba. He says, I'll take that opinion halfway. I'll pickle it. For the third and fourth kos, if you forget those, to do a Heseiba by those, there you don't have to go back. And the reason being is because there's a fear we can't add the kosos. We can't have an extra kos. Right? Nowadays, we'll make another kos, in honor of women. Right? You can't do that. That's beferish against halacha. Right? You can't be most of halakosos. The rabbi said 4 cups. That's it. So by the third and the fourth one, when you're dealing with issues of you can't eat after the afikomen and all that, so if you add another cup, that'll be a bad thing. So by the third and fourth, if you miss it, don't worry about it. But by the first 2, there the Ramah is pasking for Ashkenazim. One should go back and do that. And so too he writes also B'achilas matzah. He does write, you do it without a bracha.
But didn't you just say that the Ramah said that you don't have to lean at all?
He brought such an opinion, but that he himself went stronger than that. So is there a opinion out there that says you could just go on that? Yes. But practically the Ramah would say, so there's 3 points you're for sure going to go back. Kos 1, kos number 2, and your achilas matzah. If you forget those with a Heseiba, you go back and do it again.
So he's saying not afikomen.
Correct. He did not say anything about afikomen.
So I think this is what Gerald was asking also though. You have it seems like there's points of no return, right? Not with the third and fourth kos, but like as an example, if you've now gotten to motzi matzah, achilas matzah, and you now are remembering about the wine by Kaddish.
Right.
So like, doesn't it seem like that's too far back to go? I mean, it's just you've now gotten to like mamish a next step, even if it was just a regular Shabbos meal. Like there's I don't know, it just seems like there's not actually a fix there at that point.
Yeah.
How far forward can you go before you have to be?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And I'll tell you what Mishnah Berurah writes. Mishnah Berurah says, interesting idea. And this really applies twofold. A, to the bracha, and B, to the element that you're bringing out, that I'm sort of like, if I'm having a cup like right before I wash, that's like a little bit out of place. So the Chofetz Chaim recommends, at the beginning of the night, you should have in mind, okay, we're saying it today, hopefully people remember it for then, is that, okay, I'm about to drink my, make kiddush, drink first my cups. If I forget to do Heseiba, okay, my mentality is I could drink it an extra cup, so for the first and 2, whenever I want, without a bracha. Because I'm having that in mind. Now, if I mess up in any way, I'm having my bracha cover that. And pashtus, it seems, right, you just need to, even though these kosos come at critical points in the Seder, but end of the day, it's its own separate mitzvah. Okay. Pashtus, aside from Kedushin in the Brisker world. But as long as you have 4 cups, we drink properly, you're good. Okay? Now, that's the basic halachas of one forgetting. I'll show you one other interesting halacha. Let's say a person has, this is a good example. This is actually a very big Kiddush cup. Right? This is more than Revius. Right? You can have cups much smaller than this. Right? Now, when you have a bigger cup, you don't have to drink the entirety of the cup. Just drink the majority of the cup. Let's say a person forgot to do Heseiba in the first part of his drinking. So I saw Shmuel Kamenetsky says you could just use the rest of the cup for that Heseiba. So it's not as if you have to start a whole new cup and do a whole new thing. As long as you have something still in your cup, you could use that for your Heseiba.
But he says as long as you have anything in the cup, not still a release.
You're quoting?
No, I'm asking.
so I told him he said that little thing. I'm not sure the exactness of it. Do you still need that? It has to be a full revius.
You have a mild
I think he was saying even less than that. It should be a chedesh. But okay, what was brought up before, I want to make sure I hit those 3 other cases, which are all very interesting. A woman. Does a woman lean when she drinks the cups, when she eats matzah? So this is just great to see inside. I'm not sure there's any other halachic source like this. People should plaster this around the town. Machaber writes in Dalet, Isha eina tzricha heseiba. A woman does not need to lean. And the reason was, back in the days, women didn't lean. Except, el imkein hi chashuva. Unless she's a very chashuv, distinguished, important woman, only VIP women would lean.
Tell your wife that.
So 1 second. Harvey, you missed the punchline. Very good.
The Roman matron.
Look what the Ramah, the head of Ashkenazic Jewry, writes. And we're still living off this line centuries later. Haga, v'chol anashim shalanu mikri chashuvos. All of our wives, yeah, they're the important ones. They're the distinguished ones. They're all VIPs.
And he still follows it up immediately
Right?
with low
Now,
knowledge.
Harvey, you should not make a Sephardi joke here. But that is what.
The Ramah still follows it immediately with ach lo
Yes.
nahag.
Yes.
The camels.
Now, this is black and white. This is one of the most interesting, comments in halacha about women is, and it's really not just Ramah. You found it's a Mordechai, it's a Rishon.
My wife tells me about this all the time.
Okay, now you can make sure to bring this home. Maybe you should want to put it on, highlight it and hang it up on the wall. Now, Lamaisa, the Ramah does right. Ramah writes, in his time though, women didn't lean because they relied on this opinion that we mentioned on the Raviyah, that nowadays people aren't into leaning. So for women, there are 2 different minhagim. There are women that lean, there are women that don't lean. Definitely for women, forgets to do Heseiba by a kos, or the first couple kosas, or matzah, she does not have to eat anymore. She does not have to drink anymore. No question about it. Even the idea to lean, again, is something which is debatable. There are different minhagim. So, okay. What,
They were slaves in Mitzrayim also.
Yeah. But the question is, this is a form of freedom which women didn't do. So if this is an action which is just weird, that's also part of the Raviyah's reason why nowadays we don't do it, because it's not what we do.
So if a wife doesn't lean, you don't throw a flag.
No flags.
Right.
No flags. Very good. Put it well. Now I'll end off with one other interesting halacha. As we express, this idea of leaning is a show that you're the boss, that you're prestigious in this. And it comes up the following scenario. Really, it's not simple for a son to lean in front of his father or for a student to lean in front of his Rebbe. Because it's a show, when you're leaning, that's a show of this power that you have. Haughtiness even. And in front of one's parent, in front of one's father, perhaps one shouldn't do that. So the halacha writes the following. The default setting by a father, by a parent, is that they're mochel. And a child is allowed to lean if they're by the parent's table.
You have to state it?
You do not even have to state it. However, a father who wants to be makbid, then the kid can't lean.
Or that father-in-law.
I'm going to get to that in a second. This year I had to look up that halacha.
No father-in-law.
But
Not yet.
you're not coming to Pesach, but
First time.
not married yet. But
You know the parents.
yeah. But it's interesting where Yosef says this halacha equally applies to a mother besides a father. So in a situation, unfortunately, if the father's not there, only the mother's at the table, you would have the same issue about leaning, but you could assume the mother would allow. By a Rebbe, though, if a person would have a meal by one's Rebbe, there the halacha is you have to ask for permission. You can't assume off the bat that they would be mochel. It's different. I actually saw an interesting point in Sefer Hari Kedan. It says over the Torah from Yosef Ber Soloveitchik. Makes a very interesting distinction. And it's mashma in the Mishabura this. There's an idea of fearing one's parents, right? There's kabedes avicha, but there's also a person has to be yareh, be fearful. The lashon Chazal used when it comes to Rebbe is more rabcha to more shemayim. So Rav Soloveitchik wanted to point out, by Rebbe, by a father, it's just fear. By one's Rebbe, it's more rabcha, more shemayim. It has to be like the fear of heaven. And that's an additional level. So that's perhaps why you could explain that there's two steps. The default setting by a father, you can more easily be mekel and just assume that he's mochel. But by a Rebbe, it's a higher standard. And we can't just assume that he's mochel. There you have to go through the process of actually asking. And I saw one Mefarshim point out, is it lack of derech eretz to ask him? Because if the action that I'm doing is an act of some degree of haughtiness, so can I even ask my Rebbe? Can I lean in front of you? And I saw Shmuel Kamenetsky said yes, because since this is a mean to the Mekayim halacha of Heseiba, that one could. But it's very interesting. Let's say in a situation where you don't get the Rishos. This Rebbe is makbid on his kavan, he's afraid if guy's lean, whatever his cheshbon. So are you Yotzei the Seder? I had matzah, I had dalkos, I didn't lean because I'm in front of my Rebbe. Do I have to go to another Seder instead? Should I not eat by my Rebbe's house? So, Mefarshim point out, this is the same type of thing. In this scenario, you're pater. The only time the rabbis say the din of Heseiba is where you could perform that Heseiba. But if your hand is injured, or you're by a Rebbe, you're in some scenario where you can't do that, then you can do the mitzvah of Dal Kosos and Achilas Matzah without Heseiba. Now, B'ezras Hashem, we hope to have 2 more shirim before Pesach comes. Obviously, a lot to do, but I think this picture, perhaps demonstration of what Heseiba is something, more than just doing the actual leaning. When we take away that feeling of freedom, of regalness, the way Belsky described it, that a person has by the Seder, that's something which could last actually much longer, for sure, than the wine in your stomach, than the matzah too, and give us a sense of pride of being the chosen nation. Something to go use. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
For both sides, if you didn't lean during the entire shir, you can go to ytctv.org/shir and listen to it again.